The final race of the weekend is the Ducati Performance TriOptions Cup here at Donington Park. Excited to get this one underway in 2022 so far. We have seen dominance from Dave Shoebridge. Looking forward to seeing how he is going to fare out on that machine. He starts from pole position here for race 2. A slightly overcast and cooler Donington Park than we've had so far here today. Track temperature is going to be a little bit cooler, but nonetheless, I'm sure a very exciting 15-lap race for our riders. Getting some crucial heat into the tyres and brakes. They are here on the warm-up lap. David Shoebridge will start the race from pole position with Tom Tunstall and Phil Atkinson alongside him. Here are the championship standings going into the final race. You can see Dave Shoebridge has a 15-point advantage over Tom Tunstall. A great podium finish for him with second place yesterday. Matt Jones sitting third in the standings. He lines up fifth on the grid here for this second race. So the riders then making their way down the back straight. Here is the grid for race 2. So Dave Shoebridge, Tom Tunstall and Phil Atkinson line up on the front row of the grid. Then it's Max Lofthouse, Matt Jones and Connor Thompson on row 2. Row 3, Mark Bridger, Glenn Walsh, Michael Tustin. Row 4, Phil Baker. The Scotsman Aidan Davey and Andre Compton started on the front row yesterday. Sadly went backwards after the lights went out. So we've got 30 riders on the grid here for this one, Neil. What do you reckon for this last race of the weekend?
Well, we sort of came away from Silverstone thinking, oh, we lost some of the big names in the TriOptions Cup, and the grid was still full, but maybe the depth of field wasn't quite as strong. But it's so nice, riders coming into the frame here. The likes of Bridger is up in the ante. Tom Tunstall as well. He's keeping David Shoebridge honest. I had a good chat with him. He says, look, I'm not here to get myself to World Superbike or MotoGP or anything, but I'm here to have a good time. I won't be doing anything dangerous, but I really want to try and win some races and at least ride at the front, entertain everyone, and maybe take a victory or two. So he's well up for it.
Ready to go then, wait for the red lights to come on. 15 laps of Ducati TriOptions underway here at Donington Park. Great start from Dave Shoebridge off pole position. Phil Atkinson gets away pretty well too, but not as good as Tom Tunstall down in towards that first corner. So it's Shoebridge then from Tunstall. Somebody getting sat up. I think there's Andre Compton in the mid-pack there, and somebody having to run wide and just about getting the bike stopped, but eventually dropping it on the gravel at Redgate there. So a bit of a chaotic first corner here, Neil. Yeah,
it certainly was. But yeah, I think Andre Compton was in the middle of that. I'm not sure if he had the problem. No, yesterday he went backwards, and apparently lots of lights flashing on his V2 Panigale, and he was a bit worried. He wasn't sure what was going on. So he eventually dropped back. I think he still scored a few points in the end. Finished 13th, but not sure what was going on with his bike. Maybe they still have some electrical issues there. But yeah.
Oh dear, that I think is Phil Atkinson who might have gone down. That's at McLean's, so a big crash there for one of the riders, and they just about managed to make it through. So it's not Phil Atkinson, I apologise, there he is, fourth in your picture. So one of the riders definitely going down in a big way at McLean's, but it is Dave Shoebridge that leads the way from Tom Tunstall. Then it is Max Lofthouse. Up the inside goes the number 92 of Matt Jones, started on the second row of the grid, making good progress then up into third at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, whatever happened to Andre Compton, he certainly made a bit of recovery, come over the line there in 9th position. So yeah, someone coming into McLean's here, yeah, there's a bit of contact here, there certainly was. You think it's a fairly slow corner, but that could be 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah, it was
in the deck.
Yeah, it was a very big accident there. It could have been the number 29 actually of Mark Bridger, because he's gone down the bottom of the timing screens. So Mark Bridger having a big crash in the first lap then of this race. That's such a shame, because he was starting on the third row of the grid.
Yeah, commentators curse there, working on the first lap. Really sorry for Mark there, because really, yeah, definitely in the hunt for the top 6. Had a good result yesterday, bringing it home in 6. But yeah, whole shot and great start for Shoebridge. So Tom Tunstall has got his head down. 0.9 of a second was the gap over the line on that last lap.
Meanwhile, this is a great little scrap going on. Phil Atkinson in the middle of it. Just in front of him is Matt Jones. Just behind him is the 33 of Connor Thompson as they come through that chicane. So this is the battle for the final podium position in this race. You can see Andre Compton there on the blue and green machine. He was involved in some drama at the first corner. Here comes Phil Atkinson down the inside of Matt Jones. Nice clean move there.
Yeah, and that was another rider that I was talking about back in the fray. A real quality act, a guy that can get some decent performance and results out of the V2 Panigale, so great to see him back in the championship and of course running at the front here. Meanwhile, the gap increases at the front. Shoebridge now 1.5 seconds in front of Tom Constable.
Decisive attack back from the 92 of Matt Jones into the old hairpin, and that's going to possibly put Phil Atkinson into the clutches of Connor Thompson. Meanwhile, further back you can see some scraps going on for position, but Phil, he got a really good start actually off the front row, but seems to have just dropped back a little bit in these opening couple of laps.
Yeah, you certainly have to make that first lap count if you can get into it. It's a tricky one getting into Redgate if you go in a bunch, because it is a little, the corner turns back on itself, it turns into a bit of a bottleneck. So, but if you do take the chance like Dave Shoebridge did, go down the outside of a nice sweeping line through there, then you really can capitalise on that on the first lap. But sometimes it's risky going wide when you know that other rider's going to pile down the inside and try and block you.
Great start for the race from Ewan Potter. Down in 19th he was at the start of the race on the grid. He's up into 10th place, made 9 positions in the first few laps. As you see, Connor Thompson going up the inside of Matt Jones into Redgate. Nice clean move there. And this is going to be an interesting scrap here, because Connor Thompson finished the race yesterday in 7th place. Had good pace though towards the end, and I wonder if he's going to have enough left in the locker. But Matt Jones is certainly retaliating. That was a late move into the old hairpin there.
It certainly was, and he was kind of at a weird angle there. That could easily have gone wrong if there was the if there was riders that couldn't see the other in their peripheral vision. So everyone seems to be pretty this time.
Slightly cooler track conditions and a bit more overcast than there was earlier on here today, Neil. What do you reckon that's going to mean for the riders?
I think very little difference really. The ambient temperature has come down, but there was some good sunshine early in the day, and the track soaks up that heat, and the heat will remain in the tarmac certainly till 5, 6, 7 o'clock this evening. So no real issues there. The tyres will work pretty much as everything's at optimum temperature, optimum working temperature. So there's certainly no safety issues there.
Dave Shoebridge still leads the way, quickest man last time around, a 1:10.3, looking like he is in command of this second race in the Ducati TriOptions. He's won everything so far in 2022. Struggled a little bit though yesterday, let's be fair, in the latter stages. Arm pump, he said, didn't he?
Yeah, he said, and yeah, something I said at the time. I spoke to a lot of riders in different championships this weekend. Jack Kennedy in the Supersport Championship, Brad Ray, I think, had a little bit of arm pump in the Superbike class. My very own Taz McKenzie, he was also suffering from arm pump, and Donington does throw up that. It's really quite hard on the forearms, particularly your right hand arm. You're sort of pumping that right brake. It's very physical, you're pushing and pulling your arms, plus, as I said, using the front brake, and it really kind of puts a bit of pressure on your forearm. And a lot of riders, if you are susceptible to it, it tends to throw. It exaggerates the problem here at Donington Park.
Just looking at the forefront of your shot, that's number 36 of Ewan Potter. It's made his way up to 10th from 19th on the grid. A phenomenal start to this race. He's just got Craig Kennelly, the rider from Hornchurch, behind. And this is the scrap for the final position inside the top 10. The thing is, though, for Ewan, is that the field is spread out a little bit in these early few laps. So any forward progress from here is going to be a bit of a hard task.
Yeah, it really is. It is strung out, but I think since Silverstone, things get a little bit closer. Everything's a bit closer together. There was some runaway riders earlier in the season, but I think everyone getting up to speed, getting the settings on their bikes, getting the gearing right, getting the suspension right as the season goes on. And yeah, I think the field is definitely
again, that just goes to show when you're riding in pack racing, if you have one wide line, you can.
National one sector wrong, one section wrong, or even one corner wrong, it really affects you. It can affect you from pretty much from a third of a lap. But yeah, number 7, Phil Atkinson, a strong rider. That was an unusual, in brackets, high-risk pass to place to pass there, but yeah, pulled it off nicely, although he didn't make it stick at McLean's. But look at this, 5 V2s, all in a line. Freight train as the head, out of Coppers, down the back straight to the Robert chicane.
Yeah, they are phenomenal sounding machines, these V-twins. I think Connor's going to have a go on the brakes of... into the chicane he goes, gets the move done. Nice decisive overtake there for Connor Thompson. Now the crucial question is, now he's in front into that third place, can he build a gap to these 4?
Well, he certainly seemed confident, but I don't know. Slipstream comes into play here as a head down. Redgate's great passing manoeuvre there for Jones. Blocking pass manoeuvre, managed to run wide and hold it as the head through Hollywood and down through Craner.
Yeah, there you go. From the podium positions to now having to keep an eye on the rider behind of Max Lofthouse. Runs it a bit hot in towards the old hairpin. This is a big old moment there for Dave Shoebridge.
Hey, and look at the gap. 0.8 of a second.
Yeah, it's come down, hasn't it? He built it up to about 1.5 seconds. This is what we saw yesterday, though. Really strong in the early stages. And then the latter stages, when the arm pump affected him, he just seems to not have the pace to run.
Yeah, well, he admitted that he did have a problem yesterday, and it could be the same today. Where are we on laps? Yeah, 10 out of 15. So, yeah. But
he's got time, hasn't he, there, Tom Tunstall?
He has. 0.8 of a second. They're going to go over the line again. Let's see if Tom Tunstall has taken any more time out of him, because, yeah, there's certainly plenty of time left, plenty laps left.
Yeah, Max Lofthouse there.
0.2.
It is, yeah, 0.2 of a second between the race leaders. Here comes Lofthouse having a little look on Connor Thompson. Isn't able to make that stick. Phil Atkinson in the middle of a bit of a sandwich at the moment as the riders come out of the final corner. And look at this for the race lead. Tom Tunstall versus Dave Shoebridge side by side down the Craner curves. Come on, boys, this is how you do it. Dave Shoebridge just about manages to hold on. He's on a tighter line, though, on the run into the old hairpin. Is Tunstall going to get a promising exit out of there? Not quite close enough to mount an immediate challenge. But I tell you what, Dave Shoebridge is going to have his backside twitching like a rabbit's nose.
Well, I wish I'd put a bet on this now, because Tom Tunstall did predict this. He did tell me that he was going to keep him honest if he could get away and can keep him in his sights, which he has done, and he's taken a massive chunk of time out of him. David Shoebridge reacts there. It'll look good through that last sector, but he's sliding around. He's riding that bike really hard. These bikes have got a little bit of traction control. Most of the guys kind of turn it off or turn it down, but traction control does come into play, and that can really, sometimes that can save your tyre. It can certainly help you riding, but sometimes it can work against you and make your tyre work harder.
See him avoiding the curb there on the outside, Dave Shoebridge.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised after that moment he had a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, I think it maybe just got his attention. It looked like he was controlling the race, certainly in the early laps. Got that great start. 1.7 I saw was the gap at some point. But yeah, he has reacted, and 0.4 of a second going over the line on that last lap. We're at 2/3 race distance now, so important to be in front. If this race did happen to get stopped, a red flag, you want to be leading.
Yeah, just going on the back marker of Mick Potter, who very sensibly moves out of the way, keeps a good look over his shoulder there for the retaining pack. They're some 16 seconds down the road of this leading group as they come through. So it looks like Dave Shoebridge has just been able to settle it down a little bit, build out enough of a buffer, bit of daylight between himself and Tunstall to not have that immediate challenge, and that'll be a bit of a weight off his shoulders.
It certainly will, but yeah, having a look there, that's the
final
Jones.
podium battle, isn't it?
Yeah, down the inside into Roberts. Jones.
He's going to run it a bit hard. I thought he might run over the green paint. That's going to allow Thompson to go. Oh, look at that, Phil Atkinson, 2 for the price of 1.
I'll have some of that. Thank you very much.
You buy one, you get one free there for Phil Atkinson. He sits in 3rd place ahead of Matt Jones and Max Lofthouse then. Coming into the business end of this second race for the Ducati TriOptions, it is still Dave Shoebridge who holds an advantage down to 0.3 of a second across the timing line. Couple of laps left now remaining here, and the thing is for Tunstall is he's going to be thinking about where he's going to attack. That is Mick Potter with his arm up down the start-finish straight, so looks to be a technical problem there for Mick, and of course the retaining pack about to come through in this 5-way scrap we still see for the final podium position. I wonder if Max Lofthouse is going to have a cheeky look down the inside of the number 92.
Well, these guys are not backing off. Both Phil Atkinson and Max Lofthouse setting their personal best lap times on that last lap, so they're really upping the ante. Shoebridge and Tunstall, they're setting some fast speeds through kind of curves, 122 and on 123 mile an hour respectively. That was their fastest speeds on the last lap. So these guys, yeah, digging deep. And look at Phil Atkinson, experienced rider there, as I said before, rides every kind of machine out there and really showing his class now.
Mike Tunstall just managed to make his way up, but lost the position there to Connor Thompson as they come through in towards Coppice then and down the back straight. So Phil Atkinson with the advantage on the podium. It's Max Lofthouse, the rider, who's looking pretty menacing though on the back of Matt Jones here. He's running out of opportunities though, running out of time here. No, still a couple of laps left to remain.
Yeah, the chasing 4 here definitely run out of time, I think, for Phil Atkinson. It's coming up to penultimate lap time on this lap.
Shout out as well to Aidan Davey, inside the top 10 in 8th place in only his 4th Supersport race. That's great riding.
I think we've got a faller, maybe Andre Compton. I think we've just lost him.
Yeah, there we've got a rider down. Don't think that's Andre Compton. But certainly somebody who's gone down. It's the number 17, Phil Baker, by the looks of things, the rider who's crashed. That's coming into Coppice. So what happened here then? Because it doesn't look like he's pushed. Oh, he's over the curb.
That would do it. It doesn't take much. Fine line, carrying quite a lot of angle in there.
Yeah, you want to keep it on the black stuff for maximum grip, unfortunately.
Yeah. Bit of a bobble.
Yeah, an early end to the race for the rider from Ashford. A shame there because he was running relatively well. Meanwhile, back to the battle for the podium. Look at the gap that Phil Atkinson has pulled out. He's in 3rd place there, so it's now a battle for 4th.
Yeah, he's pretty much home and dry. Hopefully not giving them any commentator's curse there, but he really he made good use of that opportunity coming out of the chicane a couple of laps ago. Got a great drive onto the start finish and off he went, and really pretty much in control. It's certainly not all over for 4th place.
No, it certainly isn't. Meanwhile, here is the race leader on the final lap. After that wobble a few laps ago, he's been able to put a bit of daylight between himself and Tom Tunstall. They are coming up on a few back markers, though. That can play a factor in this, can't it?
Very much so. Earlier in the Supersport race, Jack Kennedy and Bradley Peary definitely had some issues with lap riders, so but this short circuit at Donington happens in quite a few of the races around here. And look at that, Dave Shoebridge up through Schwanzey's on the back of a rider. Yeah, he's safely through. And probably Tom Tunstall might be the big loser here and keeps it safe.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's just about been able to keep that behind the True Heroes Racing Ducati as they come through. The gap is certainly a little bit smaller, and I imagine that Dave Shoebridge is going to be very wary of that. They're just making their way past Matt Venn, the rider from Evesham, then as they come down the back straight, but it looks like Dave Shoebridge is going to continue his perfect streak in 2022 here for race 2 of the Ducati Performance TriOptions Cup. Out of the final corner, across the line, it's a win once again for the 86. Dave Shoebridge takes the honours here at Donington Park ahead of Tom Tunstall, another second place finish, and Phil Atkinson will come home in third place, but the battle for fourth still reigns on here. You're looking at the number 92 of Matt Jones with Connor Thompson going for a late move on the brakes into the chicane. Is he going to get the bike stopped? Yes, he is. Nicely done there for him. And possibly you could see Matt Jones losing out on the run to the line here as well, as it's 3 wide for that final podium position. Very close racing action. Max Lofthouse finishes P5, Jones down into 6th place, and delight once again for David Shoebridge. A great performance. I don't know if he intended to run on there at Redgate.
I don't think that's a celebration, but yeah, it's okay after the checkered flag, and maybe his arm pump really kicked in and he couldn't get her stopped into turn 1, but yeah. Dave Shoebridge having an amazing season, really. But yeah, he's got some competition, and these guys are going to be chasing him next time out, that's for sure. Oh, he just celebrating, waving to his posse of fans there heading to Redgate. And he's a great character. You'll find that more amusing. Thankfully, he didn't go down and have any gravel rash to take home. But yeah, what a weekend.
Yeah, great performance from Dave Shoebridge. Once again, the Rich Energy Ducati team with yet another win in 2022. So that makes it 4 wins from 4 races. A perfect start to the season for the rider from Turners Hill. Slight wheelie there. There we are. He's got the front wheel up properly. So let's take a look then, shall we, at the final results from race 2 of the 2022 Ducati Performance TriOptions Cup. It is another win for Dave Shoebridge. 1.2 seconds, the eventual gap between himself and Tom Tunstall. Phil Atkinson takes another podium. It is a repeat in race 2 from the podium that we had in race 1 yesterday. Connor Thompson, though, 4th ahead of Max Lofthouse in 5th. And look at how close the gap was between 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Just under, I should say, a second separating those 4 riders. Aidan Davey, a great top 10 finish for the Scotsman on the 38 ahead of Paul Gallington and Craig Kennelly just inside the top 10. Ewan Potter in 11th. Peter Hassler inside the top 12. Simon Bastable, James Kelly and Steve Taylor complete the points finishes there. Andre Compton didn't manage to make the finish of that race. So we had a few riders who didn't manage to make the finish of that race. Bit of a race of attrition here in Ducati TriOptions. So that does bring a conclusion to the racing here today, but let's take a look, shall we, at the championship standings. So 5 wins from 5 races for David Shoebridge, 100 points on the board, a 20-point advantage over Tom Tunstall in second. Matt Jones in third, some 55 points adrift, but only 2 points ahead of Michael Tustin for third place. Then you've got Max Lofthouse. Phil Atkinson with that podium brings himself in closing range to Lofthouse in 5th place there, with Aidan Davey getting inside the top 10 for the first time this season in the championship with a promising 8th place finish. And Connor Thompson as well with a strong finish inside the top 10 in the championship. Ewan Potter had a really good run in that race, started 19th, finished 11th on the grid, on the finishing order I should say, and got a couple of points on the board there as well, elevating him up in the championship. As we saw, Andre Compton sadly not making the checkered flag, down to 15th in the standings. Well, let's have a look then, shall we, at the highlights from race 2 of the Ducati Performance TriOptions Cup. So, away from the lights, it was Dave Shoebridge who led the way. A great start, though, from Phil Atkinson on the outside of the front row initially, but wasn't quite able to get the better of Tom Tunstall down in towards the first corner. Keep an eye out for Max Lofthouse as he dove over the front of the number 92. Then there was contact in the midfield. We saw Andre Compton coming to blows with another rider, them eventually going down. And then you can see a bit of drama there for Mark Bridger into the gravel on the first lap. A shame there for the number 29 to end his race so soon. It was a fantastic scrap for the final podium positions that went on for almost the entirety of the race. Matt Jones sending it up the inside of Phil Atkinson into the old hairpin. Supreme confidence in that Pirelli front tyre and the front end of his Ducati V-twin. Meanwhile, you can see here a bit later on, it's the 92 of Matt Jones making his way up the inside of Lofthouse then. As they came out of the final corner, it was a slipstream battle down in towards Redgate. into the final series of corners. You could see that Connor Thompson sent it up the inside here of Matt Jones and made his way through for that position. Andrew Lofthouse then eventually holding on for a strong finishing position. But keep an eye out for Phil Atkinson here on the number 7, because he was able to carve his way through as the riders were squabbling amongst them. Look at this, up the inside, a clinical, decisive, overtaking move. Dave Shoebridge takes the win in race 2 ahead of Tom Tunstall and Phil Atkinson. Once again, continuing his perfect record in 2022 for the Ducati Performance TriOptions Cup.
Again, funny thing. Oh.
Yeah, ready when you are checking.
David Shoebridge, what a fantastic race, double victory. But then you nearly lost it in the gravel trap, I saw.
Yeah, got a bit excited at the end there. Again, I had to work for that, as we always do. But I had it quite easy at Silverstone. I wouldn't want to say I was being complacent, but yeah, Tom gave me a run for my money for sure, and opened up a bit of a gap. And yesterday I was struggling from arm pump, which I didn't today at all. Obviously got the other levers on today, which aren't so tight, but tucked the front of the old hairpin and I was properly off. I mean, I ended up almost doing like a Yui, it felt, looking at the crowd. I don't know if it got on the camera, but my God, it was a big one. So well chuffed to get to the end and so excited, obviously, to get the double now.
Absolutely fantastic job, double victory. Well done, David.
Thanks so much. I just want to say a big thanks to, obviously, Rich Energy for supporting me, and someone that I've never shouted out because he always does a lovely paint job. Brian Evans has smashed it with my crash helmet. It's actually a season old now, so I'm teeing you up for a new one, Brian. Thank you very much. Have a nice holiday, and I'll see you when you're back.
Thanks very much, David. Well done.
I think he might need a glass of water after that one. Old Dave Shoebridge, he was panting away there, wasn't he?
He certainly was. And it might have been that moment. It sounded like how you had a Marquez moment at the old hairpin, saying he was looking backwards at one point. I wish we had seen that on camera, but yeah, must have been spectacular. And yeah, if you get one of these and you get away with it, then it's time to get your act together and regroup and bring it home, and that's exactly what he did. So yeah, great performance, and as we've seen with David, great character and a worthy victor.
A 20-point advantage in the championship then. We're not even at the halfway stage. I mean, that's a very commanding lead.
It's serious, yeah, but you can never get complacent. He's got a massive target on his back. The competition is really up in the ante. They're definitely getting closer, the likes of Atkinson, Tom Tunstall, and that chasing bunch. There's no reason why all of these guys couldn't have been fighting for podium positions right to the end. Yeah, Phil Atkinson just got that massive slingshot, took advantage of that. But yeah, I think we're going to see the everything close up at the front. So David has to be on his A game certainly for the next 2 or 3 races.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've got a little bit of a gap actually between now and Donington Park, about 3 weeks or so. So a bit of time to regroup and get the focus onto latching onto Dave Shoebridge.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they'll go back. They'll look at the bikes. They'll compare notes and do a bit of delving around and then see how they can improve. And yeah, it's good. It's been a great weekend because the weather's been consistent. It's been a great testing weekend if you're trying to get up to speed and get some good feedback from your bike. So yeah, they're gleaning a lot of information and maybe find out. Maybe some money will change hands and they'll find out what settings David Shoebridge is running and copy him for the next one.
Well, the top 3 finished this race as they started. Phil Atkinson in 3rd, 2nd for Tom Tunstall, and a 5th win of the season for this man, David Shoebridge. What can the rest of the field do to stop him in 2022? Simply phenomenal from Dave. Going to run out of team's representatives to bring onto the podium at this point.
I think a performance matching Josh Day in previous years, and our thoughts to Josh Day. Really big action over the weekend, and hopefully we're all wishing us to do it.
Yep, certainly are sending our best of love and wishes to Josh Day and his loved ones at the moment. But the man on top of the podium, Dave Shoebridge, then a 5th win in 2022 for the Ducati Performance TriOptions Cup. They're back out at the Donington Park GP circuit in mid-July. What can they do to stop the man on the top?